Yeah!
Hey guys, so there's been a lot of talk about white artists singing R&B and soul music and becoming a lot more successful with their renditions of their songs.
You know, once in a while people will still come up and say, yo, can I take a picture? Will you sign this? And I'm grateful. And I always do it. It's usually 99.9% of the time black folks, my people. Unless, of course, they are foreign. You know, there's some foreign markets I do pretty well in also. The reason for that is the systemic racism within the music industry. You see, I never reached, I'm not famous. I am black famous. There's a big difference. In the music industry, as a black artist, you are not promoted or marketed to the world. You are promoted or marketed to black audiences. And once you reach a certain level of superstardom within the genre of of soul or R&B music, then the powers that be will deem you worthy to, okay, maybe we can start promoting you to the rest of the world, right? But if you are white R&B artist, you are immediately promoted and marketed to the world in more of a blanket, ubiquitous. No, let's promote this artist to everybody, and that's just the way it always has been. That's the way it is now.
It started off with Elvis taking from Little Richard, but more recently, there's been a lot of complaints around people like Adele and Sam Smith, both British soul artists who have garnered all the awards, all the Grammys, all the nominations, all the airplay, while R&B since 2010 has had very little and limited airplay.
I'm surprised no one picked Half of You. That's my favorite on the album.
Yeah. So yeah, I would say Half of You is definitely a very close second.
See, now if Adele sang it, it would have won, you know, a record of the year, the Grammys. It would have, you know, and so I'm listening to that track. Even today, I listen to it and I'm like, wow, this is the kind of song that if Adele sang, it would be record of the year, album of the year, song of the year. But when you guys, but it just shows, unfortunately, the discrimination within the industry, because that, to me, that I listened to that and I was like, wow.
You're absolutely right. I agree. Obviously, if was a fifth, we'd all be drunk. Yeah. If we if we look like Adele, we would definitely sell like Adele. But I think it's great that people can go and reintroduce themselves and get reacquainted with that music.
And so all but people like Ed Sheeran, Adele, Sam Smith are able to get massive airplay singing the same R&B that our black artists are singing, but are not making the same impact.
Like, Sam Smith gets to sing a great song about stay with me. That goes straight to power rotation on a mainstream radio station. If I sing that same song, stay with me, limited bandwidth. Because our violence isn't the threat, our love is. Our family separated, it's fine, it's perfect. The man staying with his family and raising his kids and pouring into his woman, that's the threat.
Not just on the radio, but also at the award ceremonies as well. So both Eric Benet, Tank, and a number of artists have started to raise this up, but it doesn't seem to be getting away. And you know, unfortunately, it's really making it hard for our guys to be able to, and I'm saying guys, both women and men, who are working hard trying to get their music out there. And it seems that there's a system And I'm not blaming the artists Adele and Sam Smith and Ed Sheeran, but it's a system that's saying we will promote them against black artists. Let me know what you think. This is Eric Benet, what he had to say, even Tank, what he had to say, and just see if you agree with this, or is it maybe that they're just making better music and that our black artists need to up their game? Let me know what you think.
Well, back then musicians were musicians and business guys were business guys. So musicians didn't really talk business. They only made music.
Wow.
So I learned the music business when Confunction, because Confunction had a management team, that management team ended up being our management team. And then that management team took us to this independent label. And then when it didn't go well, I went back to that same management team and said, hey, I want to start a label. And then they cursed me out and told me I couldn't start a label because that's not how it works. And, and I hung up the phone with them and I was so mad. I called them back up and I cussed them out and told them if I could see them in person, I'd whoop their ass. And then I said, you guys are fired. And I started a record label. And that was J Records. And that's how I did. And that's how the first records I released were Rumors.
Okay.
By the time they closed the club.
And that's what R&B stands for, and that's why R&B takes such a back seat, because we're not promoting the aesthetic that continues to perpetuate the stereotype. You guys are killers. You guys are animals. You guys are savages. That's when you're at your best. So that's what we're going to reward. Those are the guys who get the $100 million deals. Those are the guys who fill up the arenas and stadiums and talk that shit. We love when you talk that shit. Love? We're cool. We're cool.
So now a lot of people are sending the damn wrong message, because if I'm a young guy and I want to be a songwriter and I see this is what's selling, then that's what I'm gonna start writing. I'm not gonna write some good stuff. I'm gonna write whatever is selling. You know what I'm saying? So I think that was a decision made by somebody higher up to say, okay, let's get away from this and let's start doing this. Because when we came out, we were singing about love. The thing about R&B back then was that you had Maxwell, D'Angelo, me, you had Usher, you had R. Kelly, Joe,
Brian
McKnight, Eric Benet, Chico DeBarge. I mean, you had a lot of, you had Carl Thomas, Dave Hollister. The funny thing about it is that we all sang R&B, but we all had our own styles. Nobody sounded the same. And we all sang about love in different ways. You had some guys was more about sex, some guys was more about relationships, other guys were about both. And I think that what's going on today is the fact that a lot of people sound the same. A lot of the music sounds the same. Nobody has their own sound. It's just like, you play the radio and you hear one long record, because everything is so much of the same. And I think back then it was diverse. You had a lot of different sounds, and I think that equated to the type of love that we had back then. Now it's a little different, and I think that's where we're going. We're getting back to that.
You thought about starting a label. The management company says that that's impossible. It doesn't work like that. What were their reasons for trying to discourage you? And what is it that you saw that thought, this should work?
Well, I think managers always want to control artists. Back then, at least. Maybe now it's a little different, but back in that day, the manager was the manager, the artist was the artist. The artist went out on stage, the artist wrote songs, the artists were creative, the managers were business. So for me to say, I want to start a record label, that's not creative, that's business. Get in your place, boy. That's how it felt to me. Stay in your place. And I didn't grow up like that. My dad was a tough man. My dad wasn't nobody to be fucking around with. Excuse my language. He wasn't nobody to play with. And my dad, if you wanted to fight me, if my dad caught wind that you wanted to fight me, my dad would knock on your door and tell your daddy that your son want to fight my son. My son is right here on this grass. Bring your son out here. And so I was small, light-skinned with a big natural, and I lived in the hood. I learned how to fight before I learned how to do anything else. My daddy would make me fight everybody, no matter how big. And so there was no way I was gonna let some white man tell me what I could and couldn't do. I didn't come from that kind of stock. My dad wasn't made like that.
Let me just wrap this up because I could probably just go on for hours about this. People really, only people who really know who I am are my people. Black people. White people don't really know who I am because white people, I was never really marketed to white people. Which is not fair at all because, I mean, there are definitely R&B white artists out there. But as I said before, they don't have to go through the trials or the extra obstacle that we have to go through as Black artists. I mean, think about it. Can Sam Smith sing better than Tank or Anthony Hamilton? Hell no. But I guarantee you Sam Smith is doing stadiums. You look at TikTok and you hear Sam Smith song every 10 minutes if you scrolling on TikTok. Does Adele sing better than Jasmine Sullivan? Hell no. No slight to Adele. She's a dope artist, but it's the same thing. It's like massive stardom does not necessarily equate to the talent that one could find in their Black contemporaries. It's the way the industry is. It's not fair. It's not right. The marketing and promotional powers that be seem to not have a problem with promoting other kinds of Black music initially, if it's particularly, I don't know, I'm gonna catch hell for this, but whatever. If it's particularly misogynistic or violent or ignorant in one way or another, they will promote the hell out of it. But if it's about love, if it's something emotional and empathetic and growing and learning from life lessons, they ain't trying to promote that from no Black artists, man. Nah.
People have asked me what happened to R&B music. What do I think happened to R&B music? I know what happened. I don't have to think about it. We stopped playing instruments in R&B music. We stopped having live bass players and live guitar players and live keyboard players, and we started sequencing everything. Now, mind you, the production sounds really good. It sounds really big. It sounds really fat, but it don't feel like nothing. I mean, it feels cool, but it don't really feel like nothing. Not when you start listening to songs from the 60s and the 70s and 80s, when you put Marvin Gaye's What's Going On up against anything today, it can't stand up. When you put Funkadelic's Knee Deep up against any club record today, it don't stand up. It's because all those songs had live vibrations because real musicians played the instruments. Until R&B, rhythm and blues, soul music gets back to live instrumentation with live musicians and live singers really singing the songs without the help of a auto-tuner or anything, you're not going to get R&B music. So R&B music hasn't gone anywhere. It's right there. You just got to pick up the instrument. You got to stand behind the mic, and you got to really do it. That's all. And you'll get R&B back.
well end. You gonna tell when the repercussions spin. Showing up that cause you thinking it's a trend, girlfriend. Let me break it down for you again. You know I always say it cause I'm true to Jim. Don't be a hard rock when you really got a gym. Baby girl, respect is just the minimum. Yoga's messed up and you still defending them now. Miss Hill, you don't think I haven't been through the same predicament. Let it sit inside your head like a million women and feeling 10. Silly when girls sell their souls because of sin. Look at where you been. And weaves like Europeans, fake nails some by Koreans. Come again.
And I really want you to hear what I have to say. The tradition of great performers from Sammy Davis Jr. to James Brown to Jackie Wilson to Fred Astaire, Gene Kelly. The story is usually the same though. You know, these guys work really hard at their craft, but the story ends the same. They usually are broken, torn, and usually just sad. And the story is very sad in the end because the companies take advantage of them. They really do. And Sony being you know, being the artist that I am at Sony, I've generated several $1 billion for Sony, several billion, and they really thought that my mind is always on music and dancing and it usually is, but they never thought that this performer myself would outthink them.
Yeah.
So we can't let them get away with what they're trying to do because now I'm a free agent. Yeah. I just owe Sony one more album. It's just a box set, really. It's with 2 new songs, which I've written ages ago. Because every album that I record, I write, like, literally, I'm telling you the truth, I write at least 120 songs every album I do. So I can do the box set and just give them any 2 songs. So I'm leaving Sony a free agent. Owning half of Sony. So I own half of Sony's publishing and I'm leaving them, and they're very angry at me because of it, but I just did good business, you know.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for being a part of Halftime Chat. Please remember to subscribe, share, and comment. But most importantly, why don't you become a member of Halftime Chat? We've got amazing videos, amazing perks, and being able to support the channel. But anyway, thanks for watching. Take care.
I never participated in that kind of
age and somewhere in between
us, or even loving us, on which I didn't miss you with.
What was it like growing up?
She's still making an impact on 4 houses down.
I have a couple of pieces.
Trying to get this one and that one.
But that works for you, but just for me,
No, okay.
They don't understand what those boys do in all
play it.
these guys, they all work together.
I mean, I love all different genres.